The International Tribunal on U.S. colonial crimes against Puerto Rico having met in open session as guests on unceded Lenape indigenous land on October 27, 2018. Having heard testimony regarding the history of U.S. colonial rule over Puerto Rico since 1989, and having heard testimony from experts, eyewitnesses, colonial resistors, and survivors, the majority of whom were born in Puerto Rico and continue to endure colonial depravity there, on the catastrophe endured by the Puerto Rican people both during and in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. Having viewed videotape interviews and examined other documentary material on these topics, we hereby find the U.S. government guilty of the following crimes against humanity, warranting all measures of relief and redress, including but not limited to reparations. 1, that it has deprived the people of Puerto Rico of their right to self-determination, a violation of international law. 2, that after buying Puerto Rico from Spain in 1989 without the consent of the people of Puerto Rico, it subdued popular resistance through military conquest, set up and maintains a settler colonial regime. 3, that this colonization of the Puerto Rican people took place over a century, during which independence movements were repressed with great bloodshed. 4, that the passage of Law 600 by the U.S. Congress in 1950, ostensibly allowing Puerto Rico to draft its own constitution and its official status renamed Commonwealth, known in Spanish as Estado Libre Asociado or Associated Free State, effectively legalized U.S. colonialism and created a veneer of legitimacy to what was and remains the subjugation of the Puerto Rican people. 5, that this colonial imposition has profoundly and detrimentally impacted every area of life in Puerto Rico, from its domestic policies to its external relations, resulting in intergenerational psychosocial trauma. 6, that this colonial imposition has included theft of land for U.S. military bases and exercises that have contaminated the soil, air, water, resulting in widespread diseases, health deterioration, and death, as well as destruction of wildlife and domestic farm animals, that it has further resulted in forced displacement, dispossession, loss of homes, and exile. 7, that this colonial imposition through the so-called Fiscal Control Board is directly responsible for the disastrous conditions still existed in Puerto Rico more than a year after Hurricane Maria, in which the U.S. corporations and banks, under the guise of helping with reconstruction, have expropriated billions of public dollars, creating a humanitarian crisis. 8, that this colonial imposition has used the hurricane as a pretext to further the long-lasting neoliberal and right-wing policies of the U.S. government to privatize fundamental social services and destroy labor movements, especially in the fields of education and electricity. 9, that the U.S. government imposed protocols that allowed and encouraged corporate looting of Puerto Rico's natural resources and wealth and the exploitation of Puerto Rican labor, dispelling the myth and legend that Puerto Rico owes the U.S. government anything. In fact, the extraordinary debt is owed to the Puerto Rican people by the U.S. government, by U.S. corporations. 10, that the U.S. has committed genocide against the Puerto Rican people, including decades of sterilization of Puerto Rican women, medical experimentation, suppression of Boricua culture, exploitation of Puerto Rican youth to fight imperialist wars, denial of basic human needs, including water, healthful food, a refusal of international humanitarian and solidarity aid from various nations such as Cuba, Mexico, en Venezuela following Hurricane Maria. Therefore, we find the U.S. guilty, and we hereby demand the following. 1, the U.S. government acknowledges and apologizes aforementioned crimes against the Puerto Rican people. Number 2, the U.S. surrenders all property and power forcibly taken from the Puerto Rican people. And number 3, the U.S. pay reparations to victims of crime of colonization. We want to thank all people for offering their testimonies here today, and this is our offering for you guys. Thank you. ¡Que viva Puerto Rico libre hoy y siempre!
De pie puertorriqueños que han dado la señal, despierta de ese sueño que es hora de luchar. A ese llamar patriótico no arde tu corazón. Ven, no será simpático el ruido del cañón. Nosotros queremos la libertad, nuestro machete nos la dará. Vámonos, borinqueños, vámonos ya, que nos espera ansiosa, ansiosa la libertad, la libertad, la libertad. La libertad, la